So I'm assuming everybody did well on the exam. We're going to move forward with Chapter 9 or Unit 9, dealing with the real estate brokerage. In a brokerage, no matter how big or small it is, everybody has to be a business. And we're going to talk about the individual business. We're going to talk about the economics of running the business. And the next couple chapters, we're going to deal with the brokerage and the agent itself. All right? So we're going to describe what a brokerage is and license law. Now that you've seen the license law, we're going to talk about what license law really does, the fundamental purpose of it. We're going to talk about some of the Sherman antitrust rules that you have to adhere to as a business, and some of the technology that we're going to talk about. Now, on the exam, realize a lot of the technology I can't test you on, because by the time I teach it to you and you take the test next week, it's probably changed. All right? So they're going to touch on things like email and web pages and email marketing. There can't really be any test on that. So there's just a general consensus of understanding that this business is very technologically advanced. And just since I've been in it, the learning curve for technology is moving straight up because of social media and because of all the way that technology rings. I remember when I started, I caught the last mailing of the paper. They used to mail us the new listings, and you had to open your 3-ring binder and you put in the 3-ring binder, and that was your showing book, where people actually had to come in and look at your book to see what was listed. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. That created a whole business model that I think I've told you guys now. The new business, that business model's gone because we were the keepers of the data. And in order to see the data, you had to come into our office, which means we needed a big office space with a lot of parking and a big signage out front where you knew where we were. Today's technology now with the internet and DocuSign and Wi-Fi, I can run a company out of my closet because I'll meet you at Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi on my iPad and look up the mobile stuff and email you the documents and have you sign it online and send it back to me. So that whole business model's changed. So technology has advanced so rapidly in just 12 or 13 years that I've been in this. It is amazing. So let's talk about license law a little bit. You guys have had your fill of license law, I'm sure, and realize that you only saw about 20% of all the law. It's like 125 pages that if you go look at it. License law serves for 4 purposes. All right. The first thing that license law does is it explains the basic requirements for a license. Remember, buy, sell, trade, lease, exchange, manage, list, rent, consult, refer. That requires a license. Our license entity in the state is the Real Estate Commission. They determined under license law in Indiana that's what you need. You need a license to do any of those activities. Okay? They're going to define what requires of a license, the requirements. They're going to establish the standards of conduct and practice for you guys. And then they're going to tell you what happens when you fail to do any of those, through the disciplinary sanctions. So license law establishes the law, what activities require to be a license, how to act when you're licensed, and what they're going to do to you if you violate any of those laws. Okay?
Is that called AC? What?
No, we haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
License law was all the stuff we just talked about under the last section. Remember, a brokerage is nothing more than a business where buyers and sellers come together to buy, sell, trade, lease, exchange, manage, list real estate for a fee. My brokerage business is no different than Walmart's business. I still have annual reports, I still got to pay taxes, I still have to file all the documents. The only difference is Walmart sells widgets, I sell real estate, which brings in the license law portion. If Walmart sold real estate, they would have to work under the license law requirements. So that's the difference. So as a business, a brokerage is no different than any other business you guys are going to get into, or could get into. Now, the relationship that is created between you and I is that of an independent contractor. As a broker, and I'm talking about me now, I am licensed to perform activities for my client. And the word that we use is called a managing broker. The managing broker is the person that is liable for all of your activities, and I enter into an agreement with a independent contractor with you guys as you work for me. Remember, you are designated agency.
So do you actually make all your brokers sign contracts?
Yes, they have to. That's one of the ways, one of the requirements for you to get paid from me, and we're going to talk about those three. There's three of them. One of them is you have to be under an agreement with me. So you have to sign a contract with me, and they're all roughly the same, and we'll talk about what that independent contractor agreement is. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the brief difference between the two types of people. There are two types of workers in the world. There are what they call the W-2 employee. A W-2 employee, I like to think of them as a system person. As the owner of a company that hires W-2 employees, I have created a system that you work under. Be here at 8, you get off at 5. Wear the name tag on your shirt, you get an hour break. I can dictate the system with which you work. You get paid vacation, you get a holiday, we're off this day, come in that day, so many sick days, all right? As opposed to the other kind of worker is a 1099, and I like to think of these as an outcome person. All I can dictate with you guys as a 1099 contractor, we can dictate what's the outcome. You're going to come work for me and you're going to say, I'm going to do 12 houses this year. That's the only standard I can hold you to. If you want to do them all in January, you want to do them all on third shift, you want to sell them all to motorcycle bikers, I cannot dictate the system by which you do it. I can only dictate the outcome. So at the end of the year, if you've only done 5 and you told me 12, then you and I are going to have a talk and say, okay, well, we're going to disassociate ourselves with each other because you didn't have the outcome that you told me you were. I can't make you wear the modeling group shirt. I can't make you come in here at 9 o'clock. I can't make you do any of that because I don't control the system with which you work under. If I did, you would be a W-2 and I would have to take taxes out. I would have to report it to the state. I would file your taxes at the end of the year. As a 1099, I pay every dollar you earn, I pay you. That's called your split. You are liable for all of the taxes on that. And all we talk about is the outcome. I teach a class on accounting, and I didn't look up the word. I had trouble with it the other day. What was it called? It's called a non-something worker. A real estate agent under IRS rules, they name 2 of them. You're a non-exempt worker. So by law, you're an independent contractor with me. I can't set any hours for you. I cannot set any rules. You work under your own set of rules. You know, I told the story to somebody. I had a girl that worked for me that was the polite word would be dancer or entertainer. And one of the other ladies in the office had a real problem with her. And, you know, I had a discussion with that lady. I said, hey, you know, dancers need to live somewhere too. If that's how she chooses to sell her clientele, then that's fine. And typically when I hire somebody, I tell them 2 rules. Do it legal and do it ethical. Other than that, that's all I care about. Like I said, you want to sell all HUD homes or vacant homes or all $1 million homes or lakes on the... I can't dictate to you how to do that. All I can do is what's the outcome. And if the outcome meets what you told me it was, then we're good. Because I'm getting paid. Now, the book has a problem with this word, so I want to make sure we go over, and I don't know why they really care about an assistant. You can have an assistant that can be licensed or unlicensed. Just remember, an unlicensed assistant cannot do licensed required activities. We just talked about this in the state law section. Remember, she can't make up promotional material. I say she, that's a sexist comment, I'm sorry. Could be a he. Can't make up promotional material without the broker reviewing it. They can't negotiate contracts. They can't talk about the contract because that's license required. They can't show houses. They can't sit in open houses. And they cannot make phone calls to schedule listing appointments. Now, if you have a licensed assistant, then they can. All right?
And why, if that's a licensed assistant, why aren't they just doing it themselves?
That's a good question. If they're licensed, why aren't they doing it themselves? And that's the problem they usually runs into. And let's take that statement one level up. I look at a real estate brokerage like AAA baseball. Any baseball fans?
No.
All right. When AAA baseball guys play AAA baseball and they get really good, what happens to them? They move up and the guy loses them. The guy being the manager. It's kind of what happens in this world. You know, I bring you guys in, you don't know anything, I teach everything, you get really good, then what do? You leave and go start your own company. So it's the same thing with an assistant. I have seen plenty of licensed assistants that after a while go, hey, wait a minute, why am I working for $8 an hour when my boss just closed a $40,000 deal? I want that $40,000, so I'm going out on my own. It happens. You know, can't fall in love with your agent.
Does the assistant have to be hourly, or does it matter, or can that be?
If they're licensed, they can be paid a commission.
Okay.
If they're unlicensed, they cannot, because remember, can't pay them, Rule 14, can't pay them a commission for doing something that requires a license. So that's usually the big difference, by the way, too. Unlicensed assistant usually get paid an hourly rate. And what they end up doing is like, they call them document flow or document handling. And licensed assistant usually get paid a portion of the deal. Okay? That's typically how it works. Now, my compensation is called a commission. And I mean a real estate commission as in money, not the governing body, the commission. It is my fee that I charge my client for brokering the deal. That commission, first of all, remember the Saving Nemo. Mine? Remember the pelicans? It's all mine. It's my money. Matter of fact, the next chapter we're going to talk about is, I actually call it the Finding Nemo chapter. Because it's all mine. It's my client, my money, my commission, my listing, my buyers, not yours. And I say it over the top like that so you remember, because if you remember that when you go to take the test, there are a couple questions that say, why can't you do this? Because it's not your money. It's my money. I get paid the commission. I split my commission with you. Now, I may have you do all the work, but I'm getting paid because I'm taking the risk as the managing broker. That commission can be variable every time. It's my decision. I like this guy, I'll charge him 5%. I like this guy, I'll charge him 4%. I don't like her, I want to charge her 10%. I make that decision. And if you remember, that's the analogy when I said you come running in and said, I got a new client, it's my mom, and I want to help her out, so I didn't charge her any commission. Can't do that. I have a new client that's your mother, and I don't care that you love her. I still got to feed my kids, so the commission is 7%. You have to have my permission to change the commission. I also have to be what's called the procuring cause. Make sure you highlight this in the book. This is where 99% of all of your arguments in the real world are going to come in. Procuring cause means you are the reason or you set in motion the activities that ultimately led to a sale. It's your fault. And in this case, that's a good thing. We want it to be our fault. We want it to be the reason the guy sold the house was because I listed it, put it in the MLS, and we got a buyer. I'm the procuring cause. It only sold because of me. Now, here's a big difference, and one of the major differences in what really goes on in the real world and how the state law looks at it. The state law looks at it as if I walked up to some guy, knocked on his door, hey, you're going to sell your house today and you're going to use me. And he went, okay. So it's his fault, my fault, his house sold. Even though we know in the real world, your buddy calls you and goes, hey, I want to sell my house, I want you to list it. No, the state looks at it like you convinced him to sell the house. The simple act of getting him to sign the listing agreement and you put it on the MLS, that makes it your fault. You're the procuring cause. That's what you want to be. Very clear cut usually on the listing side. On the selling side, it's very hard. That means you're working with the buyer. Are you the one that showed them the house? Are you the one that got them to sign the document? Are you the one that, if you're not, you may not be the procuring cause, and we'll get into that to a whole nother degree next chapter. And I have to find a ready, willing, and able buyer. Ready, willing, and able buyer. I have to bring them to my client. Now, here comes the fun part. I can't, won't, don't, I'm not willing to, whatever, go out and work really hard. So what I do is I get a bunch of you guys underneath me to let you guys go out and do it, and you become an agent underneath me that represents me in these deals. I then pay you a portion of my commission that I charged whoever you found. So you come in with your mom and say, I got a new client, it's my mom. I say, no you don't, I've got a new client, and I'm going to allow you to represent me in the deal with her. I'm going to charge your mom 7%, and then you are already under an agreement with me under that independent contractor agreement. There are many, many different kinds of splits. I cannot go over all of them. Roughly, they're all going to be the same for you guys when you start out. The theory is you guys don't understand the business. You don't even understand the business of the business yet. So you're going to have to go work with somebody that's going to show you how to do all of this. Not only are they going to show you how to fill out the purchase agreement, they got to show you how to call a centralized showing solution and schedule a showing. So for that, on average, they split 50-50. And we're going to use that model for this class just to help you guys out. There are all kinds of ways. They can do 100% commission if you're good enough. They can do a desk fee where they charge you to sit in there. By the way, that's kind of going away because of the new business model that I told you about. You don't need them to sit in there. There's flat fee people. I charge a flat fee. My agents pay a flat $299 for every deal they do. The good thing that I have done is that pushes the decision back on them. Do you want to list it for 4? Because it doesn't matter to me anymore. That's just mine, okay? No matter how our structure is designed, I'm the only one that can pay you. The other side of the table can't, builders can't, homeowners can't. When they list and we earn a commission, it gets paid to the moduling group. And then from the moduling group, I pay you however we're set up to design. So let's go over an example real quick. Let's say we listed a house for $150,000. I have the client at a 7% commission. So how much is the total commission?
10.5.
You cheated.
Oh,
Peeked at my screen.
No, I know, before you put it on there. But 10.5, yeah.
Everybody see how you get that? 0.07 times 150,000 is 10,500. That is the total commission. I earned all of that. Now, remember, I can give part of my commission to the other side to induce them to bring a buyer. That was one of the license law. So what I have done is I've kept 50% and I've given 50% to the other side of the table, whoever brought the buyer. What happens to that 50%? No, the other 50%.
That goes to that managing broker.
Yeah, the answer is I don't know, and I don't care. It's no longer my money. All right? So I've split, which in this particular case, what's half of 7%?
3.5%.
Well, 3.5%. Because we do it on a percentage basis. When you get a listing, and when you see one of our first sheets, the MLS sheet, down in the corner of the MLS sheet, they got this thing called the BAC. BAC stands for the Buyer's Agent Commission. It'll say something like 3.5%. So that when you bring a buyer, when you see that, you know you're getting paid 3.5. It doesn't tell you what I'm getting as the listing agent. Most assumption is you're getting half, I'm getting half. May not necessarily be true. And you won't know literally until the day of closing when you see the sheet that says, you know, Remax 3.5, the Muslim Group 18%. All right? All you know, or all they know on the other side, is they're getting half. And in my BOR, general rule of thumb, that's usually how it goes, 50-50. There are some other boards, like I just joined the Bloomington board, that believe it should be a 60-40 split, 60 to the listing agent because he's got a sign involved and a lockbox and marketing, and 40% to the buyer. Reality is, doesn't matter.
Is that automatically printed on the MLS?
Yes.
The 3.5?
Yes, I have to tell you in advance. That's part of our union agreements, collective bargaining. So when you get a buyer, and he wants to see 7 houses, you're going to have 7 MLS sheets. On the bottom of every one of them, you're going to know exactly, theoretically, what you're going to get paid. This one's 3.5, this one's 3, this one's 3.5.
Okay, so that 3.5 could change.
It can't change on that deal,
Okay.
but it could change on every other houses. Your client may want to see one of my listings, 2 of Remax's, 2 of Keller Williams, so you've got 5 sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of those could be different.
Okay.
It depends on what I put my guy under and how much I want to give away. But once again, that's solely my decision. Theoretically, I could charge your mother 7% and give away nothing. So the BAC would say 0. Is that smart?
No. Good
No.
luck. Good
That
luck.
really doesn't induce another buyer to bring me a buyer. But I theoretically could. I could also charge 7%. The other side of that example is give away 7%. That wouldn't be smart for me either. But I make that decision as the listing broker. I make the decision on how much to give away. If I want to say I want to charge this person 4.5%, I can still give away 3. The BAC would say 3.0%. And at closing, that side of the table would see that I kept 1.5%. So if I make the decision, I get 50% of that. So the listing side is $5,250, right? That's also the selling side. Now, you did all of the work for my client, called your mother, and you and I are on a 50-50% split. So I get half,
Okay.
and you get half. There's the who cares.
I know, I think it's funny.
I don't care. So I make $2,625, and you make $2,625. You can guarantee some of those on the exam. All right, so real quick, let's do another one. Same scenario, except you are on a 30-70 split with me. You get 70. So now you've done 4 or 5 deals, you've gotten a little bit better. I don't have to have as much hands-on experience with you, so I'm gonna let you run free a little bit. And for that, I've upped your percentage now to 70-30. So the question, how much did I earn? Same example, except you're on a 70-30 split. So the answer would be
For the 70 part, it's 73.50.
okay. Here's one of the other trick questions you guys are going to say that's a trick question. Christy, your answer is wrong. And you would get an for that.
That's the answer? How much is your commission or my?
Because I didn't ask you what you got. I asked you what I got.
Oh, I see.
Answer the question. They are going to do this to you. Where they give you one side,
Yeah.
and then they're going to ask you what the other side got, so make sure you answer the question they actually ask you.
Still got it.
So I asked you what was my commission. So I got the 30%.
36.75.
Ooh, I hope not.
Yeah,
Hope I did my math correct since this is actually on recording. 7% of 150 is 10,500.
Right.
I keep half of that, which is what, 5,250? And then I got 30% of that.
Oh, I
Oh.
get the 70%.
okay.
That's why I just said you've got to answer the question I asked. So 30% of that 5,250.
There it is. Got it.
Thank you. Scared me. So the answer to the question is 1,575. You got, like you
Oh,
figured.
you get the 70. I get the 70. You
Yes,
get the 30. Okay.
You are on a 70-30 split with me.
There's the label.
Let me give you another hint because I've had a question about this once before. You almost always get the bigger percentage. So if I say it's a 60-40 or a 90-10, it's always going to be you get the bigger one. You being the agent under the broker. All right? That's just a note for you.